fuck the Globes for making Quinta walk from Timbuktu to get to the stage. And I'm like, first of all, she is tiny.
That calls to mind Jennifer Coolidge coming to the stage from the back, which I believe took 1 year. I was like, will she get there? Wow.
Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
Let's get into it.
And we are back with a bonus episode of Keep It. I'm Ira Madison III.
I'm Louis Fertel, and I guess we're just going to have to keep doing this as long as they spring Tuesday award shows on us. I've never even said that sequence of words together before. It's bone-chilling.
Can I say the amount of people who I would normally watch the Globes or any award show with were texting me like an hour before, confused that the Globes were happening last night.
Imagine watching something at 5 p.m. on a weeknight.
On a Tuesday.
That is what we did. That is Sunday behavior. It made no sense.
It felt like Hollywood in general didn't even shut down. I had like 2 generals yesterday, and like no one seemed to care that the Globes were happening. I'm like, you're nominated.
Yeah, you should have responded with, do you understand? We're all at the Beverly Hilton right now. The ghost of Merv Griffin is not pleased.
The ghost of Whitney Houston, if you ask Gerard Carmichael.
Oh, that's right. Wow, that was certainly a joke. A lot of things he said were certainly a joke.
All right, we're going to get into the Globes right away. Let's just start with Gerard Carmichael. I would say that his hosting for me was 50-50.
You're right. I'm sorting through it. Because I'm glad he kind of brought the audience into his style, which runs a little slow. You know, if you watch, what's the name? Nathaniel. You know, it sort of draws you in. There's a conversational, kind of meditative vibe. That said, I would also call it a bit drab. And then eventually, I felt like the jokes that were at the celebrity's expense were too dismissive. It was too not in the spirit of everyone being there in the room. And I'm not saying he has to be like super grateful to be there or like thrilled to be hosting the Golden Globes, which is obviously tainted, but it needed a little bit more, something more fun. I don't know.
I will say that I appreciated that his jokes seemed to like his jokes were like punching up for once, as opposed to Ricky Gervais. Like if Ricky Gervais was there was no way Ana de Armas was leaving that stage without a Ben Affleck joke. Right,
correct. That's true.
You know?
Also, Ricky Gervais can't tell a joke without telling you how amazing it is that he told it. You know?
So I appreciated that. I also appreciated, the fact that he just sort of like, when certain people that he really liked came on stage, he was just sort of like, no, I really like this person's work. I felt like there was a lot of support for artists at this Golden Globe ceremony, whether or not you were Gerard Carmichael or you were Colin Farrell just wanting to fuck Ana de Armas.
That was a very interesting aside. And yet I'm not surprised he did it. I could have predicted it, I feel.
I know, it makes sense that he liked blonde, to be honest. Also, I actually really appreciate this current era of Colin Farrell. He's still incredibly hot. Like, he's still, like, very, like, Irish and sexy and, like, but he has less of his, like, I guess we used the word sleazy yesterday when talking about people. Like, he has less of his sleazy sex tape era Colin Farrell going on, right? Like, it seems like he's matured into a sweeter Colin Farrell.
Yeah, there's something about him physically going on where he's advancing into this August, kind of Mark Rylance looking fellow. So it's sort of like, there's just a new dignity of age appearing on it. It sounds like the kind of thing we don't say actresses have that I'm now saying he has.
It's also nice to see him getting celebrated, I guess, for Banshees, because I would say that Colin Farrell's always been a very good actor, like a great actor, and I feel like he's always been sort of respected by the industry. But he's also an actor who obviously like took time to do movies, which I appreciate. Like, he did movies that people wanted to see and not an actor who just sort of like does Oscar bait every fucking year. Like he's not an Eddie Redmayne.
Right. And by the way, this is for better and for worse. He also did like the Total Recall remake. Like, it doesn't always work out. But he is the kind of person where when he comes up, people say, actually, he's always good in everything. And it takes you a second to realize that because the movies themselves can often be middling.
I will always stand Phone Booth.
I feel like that comes up a lot with him. I think Phone Booth is one of his top tier.
But otherwise, back to the hosting, I felt like the jokes were funny. I like his style. Some of them I just felt like were made to like make a punch, but didn't really, sort of land. Like, I fully support a Shelley Miscavige joke.
Okay, now I did love that. It is interesting that finally someone makes a joke about Scientology and Shelley Miscavige on TV the minute Tom Cruise does something right. Like taking his Golden Globes away or like giving them back or whatever he did. Like, it's funny that that's what provoked it.
Right, he's in his era where everyone is sort of like, we like Tom Cruise, we like Mission Impossible, etc. Like a few years ago, it would have been much easier to call him out about that, but no one ever did.
If in a way, the fact that it took this long for someone to say something like that made it even better. So I was pretty happy about that. But I do have to say, certain people stole the show from Gerard Carmichael, namely Regina Hall.
I mean, we've already forgotten, that she hosted.
She hosted the Oscars last year.
Yes, the Oscars last year. That was so fucking long ago.
Right. And also, nobody comes away from that Oscars being like, oh, the 3 female hosts really slayed.
Have her host every fucking thing. There was the funniest moment of the show. Was obviously her presenting and then calling out
to Kevin Costner.
Calling out Kevin Costner. And I love that because it also pierced that sort of fourth wall where, like when people are always like, so-and-so couldn't make it to the awards because they're doing whatever. Like Amanda Seyfried is busy working on a new musical.
Yeah, deep in, what was it? I forget the wording, but it made it seem like she was really down in the trenches working on a musical.
She's writing Mamma Mia 3 herself, actually. She's
Tick,
with
boom, Mamma Mia 3, yes.
She's with ABBA in the studio crafting new songs.
She and Agnetha are in a fight right now, yes.
But Regina was reading the excuse on the teleprompter as to why Kevin Costner couldn't be there, and she starts cracking up. And then when she gets through it, it's because Kevin Costner was sheltering in place in Santa Barbara due to the rain in California. And I saw just like very few people were being annoying about the joke, being like, like people have died, it's like the rain is serious. But I'm like, the joke wasn't at those people's expense. The joke was at the fact that Kevin Costner is sheltering in place in his mansion in Santa Barbara.
Right. Just being safe. Right. It's a little fun. Also, just the continued disbelief on her face. Like, it kept going on how funny it was. It kept hitting her. And then, therefore, it kept hitting us. She was so unpretentiously delivering her joy about that situation. It was just, she's obviously always extremely funny, but like, she just is one of those people who has like talent on tap. It doesn't even look like she has to activate it. It just flies out of her.
One of our favorite interviews ever.
Yes,
like
lovely.
She's so fucking funny. The extra funny thing about the Kevin Costner sheltering in place thing is that he's in his like I'm starring in Yellowstone era, so appealing to conservatives and that's like anti-Hollywood liberal, etc. But like, what is more Hollywood liberal than sheltering in place?
Yes,
in your Santa Barbara mansion.
Right.
Okay, come on, Mr. Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kevin, actually, we didn't discuss this when we talked about I Want to Dance with Somebody. The funniest part of that movie was the splicing in of Kevin Costner from The Bodyguard, like actual just footage of him as if he were there on set with her.
Yes, because you only get footage of her like sitting in a director's chair or whatever, learning her lines or something.
She's just
and so
with
they sort of piece
Clive.
him in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, how awarded is Kevin Costner? I only remember like Dances with Wolves.
He won a Best Director Oscar for that, and then he was nominated for Best Actor too, and then that was the last of that.
Did that win Best Picture?
Yes. Oh, I guess he
Okay.
won that too. Correct. I actually have not a very good memory for who has a Best Picture Oscar. It's usually a bunch of people I don't know, but occasionally it's, like Brad Pitt has won for 12 Years a Slave or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit like we were talking about with Anna Kendrick, with someone producing something. It's a movie comes up and then all of a sudden you see an actor, on stage. Like, what was it when like Octavia Spencer being on stage for Green Book?
Right. And she's, by the way, like yards down the stage. She's basically in East Hollywood. It makes no sense that she's even there. But by the way, speaking of Brad Pitt, you actually tweeted something that resonated with me, which is it was so fucking weird to see all these people on stage seemingly make the same come-ons to Brad Pitt at this particular moment in popular culture.
It was giving payola. Okay, it was giving, like, we know that he's already got some of the papers in his pocket saying that, Angelina Jolie is an awful person for trying to take him away from his kids. But this was giving, did Plan B slip a bunch of people some money and just say, we'll cast you if, or did their agents tell them, like, shout out Brad Pitt? Like, Regina's made sense, because Regina is older. Like she's been around in the same places as Brad Pitt, like that was sort of like an easy joke, for her. But even so, it was sort of reminiscent of like her joke from the Oscars, which I thought was funnier. Like the Jason
The one where
Momoa
she was
one.
like hitting on everybody and like patting everybody down and stuff.
That one was funnier there. But this, and then I was like, who made my girl Quinta? Shout out Brad Pitt.
Right, Quinta Brunson, huh? And then the person who presented with Salma Hayek at the end, too. It felt like a very conveniently diverse panel of people approving of Brad Pitt.
Him sitting in the front.
I don't want to... Yes.
Him sitting in the front with his grin, like giving prime, like Taylor Swift at a music awards show seating. The camera kept cutting to Brad. But speaking of my girl Quinta, shout out to someone from BuzzFeed winning a Globe last night. But also, fuck the Globes for making Quinta walk from Timbuktu to get to the stage. And I'm like, first of all, she is tiny. Like she wasn't like a tall actor, like a TV actor, like striding up there. Like she's wearing this big dress. She's wearing heels too. She's getting up there. And then did it also seem like the walkway from the way that she came up, it seemed like it was tiny.
Yes,
like she was squeezing up it. I was like, who's helping her?
Also, well, I mean, that calls to mind Jennifer Coolidge coming to the stage from the back, which I believe took 1 year. I was like, will she get there? Wow. It's like the Oregon Trail. I was worried dysentery would get her before she got to the mic.
I know that you have to separate TV and film people for whatever reason, but you would think the big shows, like the nominated ones, like the ones you think are going to win, like would be towards the front. Like I would think White Lotus, Abbott Elementary would be sort of towards the front, That
is, by the way, a hilarious thing about the Golden Globes, though, because it's a big room of tables. People are necessarily, like people who are going to win awards have to be further back, just spatially. If you remember Jacqueline Bisset's crazy win for whatever TV movie she did, she gave that crazy speech, and she walked, it had to have been a football field worth of distance from the back to the front. She gets lost backstage, like fully, she's like tangled up with producers trying to get to the mic. It's so funny.
What truly stressed me out as a person who extended amount of times of people like watching you try to do a simple task makes me anxious. Like seeing people watching me walk to the stage that long would stress me the fuck out.
Fully, you're going to fall or something. Like when Jennifer Lawrence fell at that Oscars, I know it was sort of seen as like the ultimate adorkable moment. That is also truly the number one nightmare.
Yeah, that's why men always help people up, And shout out also to Colin for helping Jennifer Coolidge up while Brad Pitt just sat there with his teeth.
By the way, speaking of Jennifer Coolidge, twice she went up to that mic. One of them was she ended up giving a really heartfelt tribute to Mike White, of course, creator of The White Lotus, Survivor.
He
alum.
was crying, and that was
my God.
Beautiful.
You love seeing a faggot love an actress. I mean, come on. How often do you get that? Like Ryan Murphy was not even shedding any tears, and Mike White, who has worked with Jennifer Coolidge now for years, just weeping. It was awesome to see. But Jennifer Coolidge, she really took her time at the mic, and you were in a way that made you worried for a second. You're like, does she have a complete joke here? Is something about to happen? And man, did she fucking deliver. I was like holding my face, shrieking at how funny she was. I tweeted something about this, but she really is out there being Jennifer Coolidge 100% of the time. You know, if she has to buy like whatever, something at the store, you know she's going to say something kind of quizzical and strange under her breath to the person behind the counter. And like just whatever's on her mind. Okay, and now I've got to go. Just that strange, faraway, pensive, bamboozled thing about her.
And this came to me last night while she was doing that. You know what I really want to see for Jennifer Coolidge? Her starring as a detective in like a Columbo kind of mystery. Like just her doing her Jennifer Coolidge thing and all the suspects are confused as fuck. And then she's like, oh, he's the killer.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the killer.
That's a little Original Recipe Miss Marple, Margaret Rutherford. She was a little bit like, oh, let me get all my shit together, you know. But you're right, Jennifer Coolidge, that third act turn where she actually knows what's going on would play really well. By the way, which reminds me, Natasha Lyonne did a funny bit where she was talking about on stage, I just wish people would get cut to the quick on these award shows. It took 20 minutes to say that.
She looks so fucking good.
I love her look. And also, it feels like in the past 5 years, she really has acquired film noir abilities. She does everything out of her mouth seems like it's from the 40s, and now she's starting this new Rian Johnson detective show. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, Poker Face looks like really fucking good, and I'm glad that he's doing something fun that's on TV that's like, but like something that he really wants to do, like in his fucking wheelhouse. So
yes, definitely.
I stand them and their friendship, and I love whenever I get to run into her because she's like besties with Janixa Bravo. So Natasha Lyonne is like fantastic.
Now, speaking of accents and what has happened to people's voices, can we diagnose Austin Butler? What the fuck is happening there?
Hey, you mean Austin Butler? Thank you all for giving me this award. He is from Anaheim.
Sir, you are not from Graceland. You are from Knott's Berry Farm.
I actually find it hilarious that he is sticking the landing even more than like Lady Gaga. Like
yes,
he is
right, hardcore.
This is full Madonna level. This is his voice now, and it is never going away.
Right. No, it's that moment when Madonna met Rupert Everett. There was no going back. She simply was him.
It's funny. I think it's funny. I don't think it. I hate it. Like some of the. That's why I deleted most of my award show tweets because like someone put mine. I think like the New York Post did in an article that was like, audiences hate Austin Butler's cringe voice, and I was like, first of all, I don't call anything cringe. I've never said that word. I hate calling
things cringe.
And
the cheapest shot you can take.
I think there was one of your Keep Its once last year.
Yes, I hate that word. It's so condescending, and it's so like, I'm cool, they're not. It's like, so you live in fear of being embarrassed all the time. Got it. Moving on.
And it's not cringe. It's just, it's funny. It's Sabrina Carpenter nonsense. Okay.
Yes, right. It's just so surprising. Just because, to me, Elvis he's obviously a real person, a popular figure, but also such a character. Like, I can't imagine actually having Elvis qualities in real life, you know?
Shout out to him, you know? Like, that's a really fun Hollywood story, to be honest, you know, because Austin Butler is an actor that nobody was thinking about him ever being in, like, a prestige film and winning an award.
Right, let alone this quickly.
Yeah, and now it looks like he's going to win an Oscar. So
right.
Shout out to him. Speaking of the four main categories for films, you know, we had Austin Butler winning, Michelle Yeoh winning, we had Angela Bassett winning.
Which is interesting. I don't know that I was assured she was at an actual Oscar contender before, but the supporting actress is so weird this year. It's so nebulous who's in the running. It's a lot of people who you like the performance, but you don't really know of them as celebrities. Very Alicia Vikander energy in the category this year, you know.
I would love to see Angela Bassett in Tomb Raider.
Your lips to God's ears, please.
Okay.
An Aliens reboot with Angela Bassett. There we go.
Or really just a Strange Days sequel. Come on, Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah.
And then Ke Huy Quan also won for Everything Everywhere. And what I kind of love about the Globes is the really sort of like you get into someone's story a bit more. And I just hearing more about, you know, how he had stopped acting for years, and then, you know, seeing Michelle Yeoh in Crazy Rich Asians, he was like, maybe I want to give it a try again. And then like being in this movie with her and then getting this award. Like, I feel like the Globes like are really good at setting up sort of a narrative for someone to go to the Oscars, which could sort of shake up the preconceived sort of narratives that we have for everyone else. So like, I think that he could potentially win. I think that, yeah, I wasn't thinking about Angela Bassett winning, but now I'm like, it definitely feels like she has to be nominated for Black Panther, for an Oscar. And also, people fucking love Angela Bassett. And I feel like she dipped into that history of like, last time I was on this stage, what's love got to do with it? You know, and I think that like everyone is thinking about the fact that like, yeah, she is an actress who should have tons of Oscar statuettes at home and does not. So I think people would be happy to give her one.
Yeah, this would only be her second nomination, which is really crazy. But you're
also,
right.
That's her movie, by the way. Like, Wakanda Forever is her
you come
movie.
away thinking of anybody, it's her, right? Ke Huy Quan, I mean, after that speech, you would be crazy not to nominate him. You know, it's like he belongs on that stage at this point. I think something the Golden Globes will always have, not over the Oscars, but as an appeal, is the speeches there, and obviously alcohol helps this, really have the nature of like, best man maid of honor, you know, like, let me just, I'm so excited to gush about this project or this person or whatever. And it feels off the cuff and a little spontaneous and a little off the rails. Whereas the Oscars are about you talking to God. You know, it's like, here I am with my values and I'm going to declare them and, you know, absolve me of my sins, you know. So it's a little bit more down to earth, if you will.
I'll always think of Joaquin Phoenix in that fucking amazing Joker speech at the Globes. And then going to the Oscars and I don't know, talking about veganism.
Right. There's a difference in tone that occurs. I mean, one of the great Golden Globe speeches is when Emma Thompson won the Screenplay Globe for Sense and Sensibility. She delivered it as Jane Austen. Like, I think it was Jane Austen writing to Emma Thompson or something, but it was so funny and so something that would seem very kitschy at the Oscars. But at the Golden Globes, there's this anything goes vibe. So it's exactly right.
I mean, truly anything goes with the HFPA. And I love how that woman sauntered out at the end. It's like, girl, hide your face.
Right. Don't declare yourselves now. Yeah. Interesting that the Fabelmans won Best Picture, which I don't know that I would have predicted. I that would have been like third on my list in that category.
When I said I saw that film, I was shocked the amount of people who had never told me that I had to go see it. But when I said I'd seen it, the amount of people who were in my DMs and responding to me that they fucking love that film was shocking. Mm-hmm. I think there's a groundswell of support for this film.
But it's interesting because Michelle Williams just missed the SAG nomination. And I'm thinking about her performance. And I, as I've said on the podcast, like, not really a fan of it. But I feel like maybe the problem is, whether you like it or not, as the movie's going along, it is about her. Like, you're thinking about her. But then the movie shifts. And I think for that reason, afterwards, you're not thinking about her as much as maybe the movie wants you to. So it's a little bit easier to forget, especially when you compare it to Ana de Armas, where that movie is just the closest shot on her, you know?
No, it was interesting, too, that after we'd recorded, Spielberg brought up Cassavetes in his speech when he won, because, you know, I was thinking about Cassavetes and, like, working with Rollins all the time. And it was like, you know, like, I still think that, like, Michelle Williams has an amazing performance that does not fit in a Steven Spielberg film.
Yeah.
I think that performance works with a different director, a director who's making a different kind of film. But, you know, because that performance, yeah, it dips out towards the end. But a performance like that needs to, like, keep going higher and higher and higher and, like, take us to this, like, big sort of, like, crescendo. And it really doesn't. Like, she has nothing to do with the end of the movie.
Right. It doesn't intensify. I think you're right. And also additional, like, for example, if you think of Patricia Arquette in Boyhood, obviously she won for that movie. That's somebody who gets a big speech at the end, you know, somebody who's like, and what's it all about? You know, basically summing up the movie for us. And Michelle Williams forgot to sum up the movie for us.
Yeah. I mean, she could have leaned into Gabriel and said, you can exhale now.
Oh my God.
Her gay son.
Yes.
We did talk about this, but in The Fabelmans, I loved David Lynch's cameo.
Oh, I meant to bring that up. By the way, I did not identify him immediately, and I knew it was somebody, and I guessed Peter Bogdanovich, but it wasn't. It's David Lynch.
One of my favorite Spielberg endings, with him walking after hearing that, like that advice, and then the camera adjusting the frame to adjusting the horizon. I thought that was really cute. I thought it was sweet. I was like, oh, like I like when Spielberg has fun with his form.
Also, if we're going to compare endings that tout a love of movie making, see how that was succinct and like you knew exactly what he was doing and it was a bit witty. The opposite of what occurs in Babylon. The like spiral you go down, literally of celluloid, like you're watching it spiral as you sit there waiting for the movie to end. And then after it revisits not only all of cinema, but the entire movie you just saw.
Also Avatar.
Avatar is in the movie. Oh, wait, here's a faggy thing. I will say about Babylon, so they revisit Singing in the Rain in the movie, which when you're watching Babylon, you already know the parallels. This doesn't need to be drawn out, but they take a real moment to focus on Gene Hagen's performance in Singing in the Rain. And by the way, that's a very famous loss in that category. They play enough of her performance here that I honestly think she should compete again. I think Gene Hagen should be in the running. I think she could take Carrie Condon.
I mean, nobody says I can't stand them like her, Like, right. I love her.
I can't stand. It's unbelievable. I think also what hurt that performance in retrospect is it's the year after Judy Holliday won for Born Yesterday, which is like the feature-length version of that performance.
Yeah, it was very odd to be like, this movie is basically Singing in the Rain, and then here is Singing in the Rain to remind you of
get it.
Singing in the Rain is also a better film. So the comparison didn't help.
You have to watch out.
It didn't help. That'd be like at the end of Shape of Water, they just watched Splash.
That would have been cute.
Speaking of acting categories, I thought it was fucked that they combined so many categories. Like, we got to a point where, like, when Julia Garner won for Ozarks, it's like, okay, like I love that she won, because people seem to love Ozarks. I haven't seen it, and I never will. But because they combine like the comedy and drama for supporting people, like you had like Cheryl Lee Ralph and Janelle James like there, and it's like, okay, but they're great and deserve like a win too. I hate the combining of categories.
Mm-hmm. Well, particularly if you're going to give the space for the lead actors to like divide into genres, like to group everybody in supporting like that is strange. But obviously that's what the Oscars do.
And then speaking of combining categories, it was just sort of like foreshadowing, of what would happen, if you combine the actor and actress categories too. Like it was great. It was actually great seeing Emma Darcy, seeing them on the red carpet talking to Lonnie Love, and Emma had this sort of like really funny and sort of poignant speech about how once they started to accept that they didn't have to present as a woman, life opened up for them, this role opened up for them, but then also like right when that happens, they're nominated for Best Actress in House of Dragon, which is funny, but then also shout out to House of Dragon winning nothing and then all of a sudden getting that award at the end and only 3 of them walking up there. It was truly like they were like, huh?
Yeah, confused. Very Grand Hotel winning Best Movie in 1932 and nothing preceding it. I was interested in who, by the way, didn't show up to the Golden Globes. Like Cate Blanchett wasn't there. Zendaya wasn't there. Kevin Costner obviously wasn't there. And I just want to say about Cate Blanchett, I just saw you at the Palm Springs Film Festival like a week ago, so don't tell me you didn't do this on purpose.
She said, I'm good.
In her speech at the Palm Springs film competition or whatever it's called, she talks about how she was almost late because Jamie Lee Curtis insisted on repacking her bag. And then she said, because we're driving back tonight. Excuse me, Jamie Lee Curtis and Cate Blanchett were on the highway back to LA from Palm Springs. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who says like, that should be a one-act play. Guys, that should be a one-act play. What the fuck? I should be watching that right now.
That's giving Ingrid Goes West, okay? That's giving. I would love to see that. Oh, speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis, just repacking her bag. Would she repack Cate Blanchett's bag or her own bag?
I think Cate Blanchett's.
Okay, well, that don't tell TSA that. Yeah. Can you imagine Cate? Did you pack your bag yourself? Actually, Jamie Lee Curtis did it. But
that's actually the worst person. Yeah, I'm worried now.
Did it not seem like Jamie Lee Curtis just drunkenly wandered on stage during the Eddie Murphy tribute?
That was very strange.
Tracy Morgan giving this beautiful, sort of like speech, about how much Eddie Murphy means to him. And then also that great pull out joke about how many kids he has. And then you see the montage of Eddie Murphy's roles, a lot of Norbit.
Yep. It was also, by the way, every Eddie Murphy role.
Yes. And after the montage, Jamie Lee Curtis is just out there. She's like, remember when we did Trading Places in 1983? And he's like trying to mouth something to her, but she can't hear. And everyone's just like, yeah, can we wrap this up?
Right. Also, it's like, right, I remember that movie you did together. Not sure that means you should be giving the tribute right here, but all right, whatever. I guess you're there anyway.
Not sure they ever saw each other again after that movie.
She did say, she goes, the first time we worked together, I was like, did I miss a Halloween sequel where Eddie appeared? Was he in True Lies? Yeah.
No, Jamie, that was LL Cool J. Not Eddie Murphy.
Good guess. Good guess. Yes.
I love that people use the stage to shout out Rihanna constantly, but she never did any damn thing at the awards.
No.
She was just chilling.
Excuse me. She just sat there?
She's just chilling.
She's like reading the program. She's like, what the hell is RRR? That just won?
She's like...
That song is awesome, though. I haven't seen that movie yet. But
I haven't either. RRR is like her album. That's what she's going to name it now. Also, the worst thing Gerard Carmichael did was telling Rihanna to take her time on that album. Okay? We've already got Beyonce pretending she's Rihanna now and not releasing anything that she's promised. We can't have, there needs to be new music around the Super Bowl.
Also, I believe the time has been taken. I mean, I'm just looking at my watch. Also, I mean, at this point, it's giving Fran Lebowitz's third book. That's what it's giving.
How long have we been waiting?
1979 was the last one? Okay, great. Yeah.
Is that how long we've been waiting for a new Fran book? I feel like a new Fran book is always coming out, and every time you go and look at it at the bookstore, it's just repackaged interviews that she's already had before. This is a scam.
No, one time it was literally the two books I wrote in the 70s, now they're together. It's like, you know what? They weren't hard to find separately before. So I'm not really sure what's going on here.
You know what? Joan Didion pulled that scam a lot.
Right, yes. We tell ourselves stories in order to make money, okay? Yeah. I will say about this award show, though, and our friend Chris was talking about this too, this award season does feel pretty muted. I don't know that it's that a movie like Avatar or Top Gun isn't dominating the conversation, something that everybody saw, but it does feel like there's a lack of particular oomph this year that we're having to make up for in the Oscars loving community. And I hope it happens. By the way, it should happen too. And I can say this now because I am writing for the Academy Awards this year. So you better all watch because I'm writing some of those damn jokes.
Yeah. The entire ceremony just seemed very, we're just hanging out. There's no glitz and glamour, and it's part of it's maybe, are people still sort of not really going in because of we're still coming out of the pandemic and lockdown, and we don't want people to feel like we're doing too much excess. I mean, too much excess is why Babylon flopped at the box office. So overall, a pretty fine award show that was presented on Tuesday evening at 5 p.m.
Yes. No, I literally had the thought, maybe I'll just watch it later, not live, since it's so early in the night because I had other things to do. Glad I watched it live. It was a solid Golden Globes and a return to form. Not that we're all obsessed with the HFPA again or whatever, but it was very watchable, often very funny. We were screaming at the TV at certain moments. So
before we end this, we must address the Ryan Murphy tribute.
Yes. Interesting. My feeling is, did it not feel like he pitched that as a segment to the HFPA? Because it was very what if I talk about all the queer and POC I've worked with in my lifetime? It just felt convenient somehow.
Yeah, I will say the one benefit was that he really sort of shouted out all of those people that he's worked with. That
it was
I
a great
thought that
speech.
was lovely. I really loved him asking Michaela J to stand up so that she could get her standing ovation that she didn't get from last year's Globes when it didn't air. That was really sweet. It's so weird that we're in this era where now because he's done all this, you know, like people have done sort of like a 180 on Ryan Murphy, only in that they love how he supports queer and people of color, you know?
Yeah, right.
It was really done a 180 on the quality of all of his work, but it is successful. So it is just a 180 from how there used to be just like industry jokes about Ryan Murphy circa Glee, you know?
This reminds me of a conversation I had with my friend Andrew Colon once, who goes, the 1979 Death on the Nile, that's a great movie. And I said, is it a great movie or is it a star-studded movie? And that's how I feel about a lot of Ryan Murphy productions. But star-studded is important.
We love star-studded, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone works with him, you know?
Yeah.
So they're having fun.
Yeah, he must be fun, you know?
Yeah.
Jessica Lange, when you watch interviews about Ryan Murphy that she's given, I mean, like, it's not just that she's thankful. She fucking loves him, you know?
I mean, you know, he's keeping Angela Bassett employed, okay? So
Right.
I'll always love that man. I need a Nip Tuck reboot.
Nip Tuck is always in the top tier of what he's done, always. The attitude of that show was second to none.
There was a lack of Nip Tuck in that montage, and I think that there's a lot more to say about plastic surgery now.
Especially since it's so much better.
I know you've had your buccal fat removed.
Oh, yes. Placed right under my tits. Yes. Where it belongs.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan Murphy. Great Hollywood makeover. You know who else has had a really good Hollywood makeover? M. Night Shyamalan.
That's another one, yes.
I just was sitting in the Knock at the Cabin trailer airing before Megan, and I remember when a film by M. Night used to be met with groans. Remember,
Yes.
they basically hid his name when Devil came out. And now it's sort of like, oh, he's back. And making a movie with 2 gay leads. So shout out to that, too.
It's frequent in porn, rarely in regular cinema.
Yeah, in a cabin in the woods, in an OnlyFans video, there's 20 being shot right now, I'm sure.
That's basically its own genre. Yeah, right.